Hi there, Virgo. Welcome to Bohemian Path Tarot. I'm Jen, and I am going to be doing your year ahead 2024 reading using the Star Seeker Tarot. Today, I'm going to lay out a Celtic cross for you and do my version of the Celtic cross. So, give me just a little moment to focus on you and focus on what's coming towards you. I'm going to give the deck a good shuffle for you, and I'll meet you on the other side of the shuffle. Okay, Virgo, let's lay out your Celtic cross and see what we've got. Oh, we're starting with the Tower. Okay. And the challenge position is the Chariot. Dude, that's intense. The foundation is the Four of Wands. In the recent past, we have the Ace of Cups. Wow. The general chapter is the Ten of Swords. I'm sorry, general sort of theme for the coming year is the Ten of Swords. But don't panic. We'll figure this out. There we go. And in the near future, we have the Wheel reversed. In advice, we have Lovers. Atmosphere, we have the Devil. Oh my gosh. In Hopes and Fears, we have Temperance. Oh my gosh. What is even happening? Okay, I'm going to point out perhaps the obvious. You have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 major arcana. I have used this deck a lot. This is not like a fresh deck that hasn't been shuffled well. I have used this deck a lot. So this is going to be a reading for the books. Holy schmoly. Okay. Okay. Let's see. And also I'd like to point out I haven't been using reversals for this this cycle of readings, but somehow the wheel got a little reversed. Even though I specifically looked at the deck before starting this recording to make sure everything was in order. So the fact that I hadn't intended to use reversals, and you've got one here, that's telling us something too. We'll get to that in a minute. But let's start with this fun card. The Tower is where we start. Now, some tarot readers interpret that as like a kind of a scary, dramatic ending. But what I see in this card is the ending of something that has run its cycle. And even if it does come in a dramatic way or in a loud way or an unexpected way, it's the breaking away of something that doesn't serve you, that was just keeping you small and rigid and bound to something that wasn't for you. There's also, if we look at this card, there's also these, let's see, I'll bring this closer. There's also these little lightning bolts, which can be like ideas, passion, insight, epiphanies that are breaking through this shell of a tower, of a foundation that is not stable, is not sturdy, cannot contain what is within. To me, this always feels like kind of breaking a hard shell and being kind of your true, vulnerable, soft self, and more authentic, more approachable. So, Virgo, I would say, you know, let's bring on the lightning bolts, right? What's in the challenge position is the chariot. So that suggests to me that there's this sense of wanting to move forward and move forward quickly or move on or move past whatever this is, and not being able to move out of this fast enough, not being able to sort of put the put the pedal to the metal. Is that a thing? Or not having the right directions, or some sort of like a false start towards the kind of getaway from whatever this breaking down is. That's going to be different for different people, right? Because, these are general readings, but it's a kind of intense ending, or sort of, ending, or new beginning, invitation to something new that has kind of had a false start. It's probably something that's been in the works for a while, or that you've been thinking or wanting to change. That's finally all of a sudden it crumbles, and now you have to deal with it. Or it could be the kind of thing that you've been wanting to get away from, um, but just haven't had the means, or the timing hasn't been right, or whatever. And now all of a sudden you have to hurry and get all the ducks in order. So for some people, this could be like literally like moving. It could be needing to fix something like in your house or your living situation, maybe getting rid of a roommate, or um, maybe leaving a relationship that doesn't work, or a job that doesn't work, or a school program that isn't what you thought it would be, or what you need right now. So that's where we're starting in this time of change that has a kind of a timing issue at the heart of it. In the foundation, we have the Four of Wands. The Four of Wands is actually a very positive card. It's usually a card of like celebrations, of recognition, being recognized as a part of something, recognized by your tribe. So this comes up a lot at like weddings. Um, Even if it isn't your wedding, being a part of somebody's wedding, being a part of somebody's commitment ceremony. This can also come up for like graduations or retirement, that sort of thing. A positive change, something that you're passionate about, something that feels invigorating, and is also recognized as a positive thing by your loved ones, by your tribe, by your community. That's in the foundation here. So you have had there's a success or a celebration that is at the foundation that is causing this sort of shift, this change, this need to move on. In the recent past, we have the Ace of Cups. Now, usually aces are beginnings, so it's interesting to see it here in sort of a past situation. But the Ace of Cups usually augurs a time of exploring new relationships, exploring your capacity to be more vulnerable, to connect more deeply. For some people, this is romantic relationships, but it's just as likely to be a friend group, or joining a club or association that has like-minded people, and you're doing things you love. This could be joining a church or some sort of spiritual community, or getting in touch with your spiritual side. For some people, this might be even a creative thing where you join a creative group. But it's showing up in your recent past here, so that suggests that that group, or that association, or that new chapter, that new exploration of your own vulnerability or connection is going to be taking up less of your time, or less of your energy, or less of your focus, because you're dealing with some other shifts and changes now. So at the top, in kind of the general atmosphere for the future, we have the Ten of Swords, which doesn't look like a pleasant card, but it goes in line with what's happening right at the center here, this shift, this change, this breaking down or breaking through. Um, you know, sometimes when we go through something like a breakup, even if we know we have to, even if we know it's for the best, there's still a lot to process, and there's still like a reorientation back to, you know, the person you were before or the life you had before. I'm not saying that all of you are breaking up. It's going to be different for different folks. But this does indicate some kind of an ending and a phase where you're going to be doing a fair amount of processing or cleaning up or, you know, dealing with the thoughts, the feelings, maybe even the contracts or sort of the mediation that goes along with it, because swords are the suit of communication and ideas and philosophies. Sometimes it's when you experience a loss, it's kind of discombobulating and you have to kind of work to understand or to come up with a new philosophy for who you are and or what the next phase is going to look like. So the good news is this card does augur the end of a difficult cycle and the new beginning that comes with every end. Tens are about endings, completions that open the door to a new beginning. But here we're seeing that as you transition into this new phase, that whatever this change is bringing, there's still some processing that's going to be happening at the same time as you're building a new life. You're processing, putting away, dealing with your feelings, thoughts about the old way or what you need to be healthier, happier, more connected, more stable moving forward. Now, here we get to the interesting thing, the wheel reversed. So typically when the wheel of fortune is upright, it indicates a time when there's a positive shift, a positive change that happens in your life. Again, this tends to be like a milestone change, sort of like, I've mentioned it before with the Four of Wands, but kind of like a graduation or a new job, a change in your fortune, a change in your status. That's literally, this card is the Wheel of Fortune, so it means like a shift in your status. The fact that it's reversed here indicates to me, I read reversals as hesitation, as something you're maybe avoiding or not wanting to accept or not understanding quite yet. So it seems to me that there's a shift or a change or a breakthrough that happens here that feels negative and changes your status, but we're actually moving to some really powerful moments. So let's just put this idea on the back burner for a minute and get to the advice here, which is the Lovers. So, and look at this beautiful card. It kind of, it really stands out in comparison to some of these other less, certainly the Tower and the Ten of Swords. The Lovers is a card about choices. Some people do interpret the Lovers as romantic relationships and the sign that a romantic relationship is on the horizon. But I see this more as, this shows up for me more when there is an opportunity to make choices about who you are based on the people you associate with. And there's some other mentions here about you in your community. So the advice here is supporting your capacity to make choices, to make commitments that honor the truth of you, that aren't about who you think you ought to be or what you think you ought to have right now or who you think you ought to be with or society suggests you should be with or whatever plan somebody else has had for your life, or maybe even a plan that you laid out for yourself when you were 12 that now doesn't suit the person who you are right now. The Lovers is saying being thoughtful, being conscious in the contracts you're making with other people, in the connections and the commitments you're making with other people, with other groups, with other associations. This can be for a job too, or a university, or what you're going to focus on in retirement, or who you're going to focus on in your retirement. It's it's being conscious and thoughtful, trusting in your power to have choice, not just be on some kind of plan that was set in motion for you at some other time, or maybe even by somebody else or your family. It's kind of taking charge of the connections and the commitments and the contracts you make in your life. Here in the environment is the devil. That suggests to me a time when you may be challenged to go back to some old ways that are more familiar, but that keep you bound, keep you rigid, keep you stuck, keep you small. This feels a bit to me like, when you go back to an ex and they suggest, wasn't it great? Wasn't it, I miss you. I don't know what happened. We should have never broken up. And you get back together and then you remember, oh my gosh, this is why, because this person is a jerk or a narcissist or doesn't fully appreciate me or is a leech and is mooching off me or something like that. Or this person has addictions that suck me in and I become a lesser version of myself, a less evolved version of myself. It doesn't necessarily have to mean you're going to be tempted by an ex. I think for some of you, that's what's happening in this reading. I think for others of you, it's just that sometimes we can have that fear of our own power, so we make choices that keep us small in the intent to keep us safe, or that it's familiar or something that we know. We don't really get to flourish. We don't really get to evolve. So that's something to keep an eye out for in this next cycle in the new year. The kind of pull towards staying small, in the hopes of staying safe, but in a way that you eventually remember doesn't allow for your evolution. And what's really going on with these change cards is a pull towards evolution, towards growth, towards more organic, a more organic you, a more present and available you. And we have this in the next card. Sometimes this card, this particular position I read as hopes and fears, and sometimes it's very obviously hopes, sometimes it's very obviously fears. In this case, this is very much, a hope card or a potential card. Temperance is all about um, the the ability to temper different elements of your life to bring them in balance. There's also this suggestion with the angel here of divine guidance or angelic guidance, or maybe if you think of it this way, guidance from your ancestors. In some way, you can ask for, you can reach out for support towards bringing more balance, bringing a healthy balance, bringing a moderation to your life, especially right after the Devil card, which is a card about imbalance, which is a card about addiction. We have the Temperance, which is a card of balance and moderation. So I really see this card as giving you a sort of a lifeline or a beacon, you know. And in fact, the Devil card is kind of bookended by a couple of, really hopeful, lovely, choice affirming, power, gentle power affirming cards. And then in the final position, the final outcome, we have Judgment. For me, Judgment is all about forgiveness. And sometimes it's about forgiveness for other people. Sometimes it's somebody coming back to you asking for forgiveness. But I think for most of you, this is about forgiving yourself for making mistakes, for not being perfect, for maybe painting yourself into a little bit of a corner and having to really make some hard conscious choices to move into a healthier place. But owning that is a part of your story. If you've made mistakes, or if you've been imperfect, or if you've even felt hurt and kept yourself small, this next year is all about reaching out of those kind of rigid places, going more towards a more organic, thoughtful, empowered version of you. That's you 2.0. So I know this seems intense, but it's actually a positive reading. You're actually being freed from a cycle that kept you small, that kept you bound. And it starts in this card, and we see it echo through, the rest of this, that even though there's some processing, this is happening as you're starting a new, healthier phase. You may be resistant to accept this kind of new change in status. It might feel weird. It might not feel familiar. It might feel alien. Or it just might take you a little while to sort of adjust to the new climate, right? But you're encouraged to make good choices and to own your sense of empowerment, to say yes to things you want to say yes to say no to things that you know are not right for you, especially when temptation comes back, if it's in the form of an ex, or if it's in the form of a job, or food, or some other addiction, whether it's a person or a thing or a situation. Allowing yourself to make the more balanced, the more healthy, the more spiritual, the more evolved choices, and call for help, call for divine guidance, call on your ancestors if you need it. Remember that there are that there is love and support available to you as you navigate these kind of trickier moments and evolve towards a more honest, organic, self-loving version of yourself. I hope that's helpful, Virgo. I hope that gives you some encouragement, some insight, maybe even some options. It does look like an intense year, but you're moving towards something much, much better and healthier. And I wish you all the best. Until next time, Happy New Year.